Welcome to Health Professionals Outside the Box podcast. In this series, I'll be talking to health professionals who've leveraged their professional skills to pursue alternative income sources, alternative careers, and entrepreneurship. We will gain insight into their motivations, experiences, and challenges, and learn how we too can carve our own path to finding purpose, fulfillment, and financial freedom. I'm your host, Fee. Thank you for listening. So welcome back to this episode of the podcast. Joining me today is a woman that wears many hats. Her name is Bonani Mapundu. She's a nurse and midwife by background and owner of a clothing brand called Yanafella. She also does some consultancy work for small to medium organizations. She facilitates workshops to help aspiring creative entrepreneurs turn their craft or hobby into a business. And she's also a speaker. Bonani, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure to have you. Tell us about yourself, just a bit about your professional background.
Well, so I immigrated from Zimbabwe and I landed in the UK and I studied nursing, as you said, and then I transitioned to midwifery not long after that. And I worked as a midwife for about 8 years, and I then decided to further my education. And I went and did a master's in healthcare governance, which is what facilitates me doing the consultancy work that I do now. I guess I did all that because I didn't want to sort of put to waste the work that I put in to qualify as a healthcare professional.
You mentioned that you offer consultancy services. So what does this entail?
So the consultancy services include anything that is under the umbrella of healthcare management for businesses. So that could be from setup, that could be compliance, and that could be all governance activities. So I help small to medium businesses ensure that they are compliant, and also to make sure that their patients are safe, because I'm very big on patient safety.
Mm-hmm. What made you transition from a clinical role to non-clinical role?
I transitioned from a clinical role to a non-clinical role. I guess I won't say I've completely transitioned, because I still maintain a small part of that. Like I said earlier, it's about ensuring that I don't get rid of skills that I've attained. And I believe that everything in life happens for a reason. So what I've learned and acquired throughout my training in the healthcare profession is something that I just don't want to wake up and throw away, because I've met very lovely people in my journey. I've acquired a lot of knowledge and experience, which I want to share with others. And that's what I do when I do the consulting work. However, before I came to the UK, I was in the fashion and manufacturing world in Zimbabwe. So that has always been, underneath and, festering in my life. And I wanted to make sure that I live that side of things, because I believe that I'm a creative. I'm a born creative. So yeah, that's that. I think that bit answers your questions.
What inspired your child and baby clothing brand, and what do you think is unique about your designs?
Right. So what inspired me to do the children's brand is that I wanted to get back to the creative side of things. So as a healthcare professional, I felt that I wasn't being stimulated in that creative manner and the way I was before I started in the healthcare space. I loved, part of my project when I was in Zimbabwe was I did bridal wear and children's wear. So a couple of years ago, I owned a bridal shop here in the UK, and I ran that for 3 years alongside working as a midwife. And I stopped because I had a child and I wanted to give time to my family. So that's what I did. So when the time came that my child was old enough and I felt comfortable to get back to work and career, I decided that I wanted to explore and enjoy children's wear again. So that's what made me move away from the bridal side and go into the children's wear. And when you say what is unique about my clothing, I, as I said, was born in Zimbabwe. So my background is pure African. And I'm about being happy, and I know and I've researched that bright colors and whether on prints or as they come on their own, inspire and evoke emotions of happiness. So that's what I feel is unique about the designs that I do.
How did the name Yanafella come about? Have I pronounced it correctly?
Okay. Absolutely, yes, Yanafella. So again, with the name Yanafella was not just a spur of the moment kind of thing. My mother's mom, so that's my grandmother, was Tswana. I never got to meet her. She died in her 50s from cervical cancer. And apparently my mom at the time only had a boy children, and she used to talk about this imaginary grandchild from my mom who was a girl. So I never got to meet her. So that's something that has kind of been at the back of my mind. So I decided that the children's brand would be something that I would pay homage to my grandmother. And there's a word in Tswana that says Yanafella, and that means children only. So I decided that that would be the name of the brand, but I felt that that didn't roll with the tongue and it might not be easy for people to say. So I decided to replace the B with the Ya, and that's how I came up with the name Yanafella.
Oh, I see. Interesting background story to it. And what sort of age ranges do you cater for?
But the ages that I'm looking at eventually would be from birth to 11. But for now, we're concentrating up to age 8. So the idea is to end, because it's a children's brand. Yes, at the moment, I'm doing more clothing, but essentially at the end, I want to end up with a children's brand. So that will have children's clothes and many other entities.
Your website states that you source fabric from a variety of nations. Was this intentional? And if so, what channels do you use?
Yes, so that was intentional because, like I said, it's all about bright colors and, bringing different nations together, really. So, yes, I get a lot of fabric from Africa, but due to obvious problems that many may know in Africa, not all fabric is actually manufactured and completed in Africa. Some of it is manufactured, it's grown in Africa, then it's brought into Europe for printing, and then or sometimes it goes to China for finishing and stuff like that. So because of that, I found that I'm having to source my fabrics from different parts of the world. So some of it comes from Asia, some of it comes from here in Europe, and some of it still comes from Africa.
Okay.
So,
yeah. And sort of how do you actually source it? Would you go online or attend trade shows, or do you have an agent you work with?
Yes, I use sometimes I go myself. When I go to Africa, then I'll make orders and bring some fabric. I do have an agent who sources fabric for me from different parts of Africa, like Nigeria, Ghana, and from South Africa sometimes. When it comes to China, I do it online. I do have someone on the ground in China who I can ask to do the running around for me, or go to see some samples and then post them out to me. Here in Europe, so far it's been mainly online. It's quite efficient for online. But for Africa and China, I've found that there has been a need to have that person on the ground to do certain things or to confirm certain elements of the process.
So for someone that wanted to, start something similar, the clothing brand, what important questions do you think they should ask when they are sourcing fabric to make sure that they're getting quality fabric?
Right. So the important questions to ask is based on where they are. So for example, I'm based in the UK. What are the components of the dyes that they're using, and are they actually regulated in the country where they're going to be manufactured or sold? So that's the main thing, because you can get fabric and then you're selling items in a country where certain E numbers, and the E numbers are the numbers that are for the dyes used, are actually not allowed in that country. So really, some of the insurances that you might have may actually become void because you are using elements that are not regulated in that country. And then, so that's more to do with regulation. And then in terms of quality, to be honest, on that bit, it's about getting the samples, and also it's about trying, because sometimes you can get samples and they're great. And then when it comes to ordering the next, your real consignment, which might be maybe 100 meters of fabric or 200 meters of fabric, it might not be as good. So that's why it's important to have someone who probably would check your consignment before it's shipped to make sure that it's actually what you actually ordered.
Right.
So that's sort of the thing that I'll say. But it also depends on the scale of their business as well. I'm still sort of small to medium myself, so I can only speak for what I'm experiencing at the moment. And I guess for me at the moment, it's still quite feasible to have one or two people doing the errands for me, but I'm sure that would look different as I grow the business. So, but yeah,
okay,
it's something that I'm looking into at the moment.
Do you sew your own clothes or do you outsource?
I do outsource some of the stock from approved tradespeople. I'm also one of those tradespeople, so I actually saw some of them. And again, that's because it's in me, the creative, because my business was born from passion. So it started off as a passion business. And so for me to prove concept and to see whether I had a business, I actually did the work myself. But I'm at a place now where I've got people that will do certain number of pieces and they'll send them over to me to then be able to supply. So yeah, okay. I do have tradespeople. I don't have a studio or warehouse yet. That's something that I'm working on currently to ensure that I have a base where I can have my garment technologists and designers being housed in a space. So yeah, that's in the pipeline.
You mentioned that you did a test to prove the concept. What did you actually do? Because that's quite interesting to know. Because many times people may just think of starting a business without actually testing whether the concept works.
Yeah. So like I say, for me, my business comes from passion. I love sewing. I love creating, seeing an idea come to life. So what I did was, when I then decided that I was going to start a children's brand, I just did a few items and I gave them out, some of them as gifts to friends and family, and some of them I allowed them to request what they wanted from me, and then I made that. So it was that kind of a process. And I even did surveys. I did a survey monkey a few times with a group of moms, asking them different questions on what I wanted to know. And then depending on what they said, I then developed that. I'm due to send out another poll because I'll be having my first official launch of a line, because so far I've not really had a line as such of items that I've decided that are the core products for Yanafella. So I'll be doing that for autumn, winter, which is UK seasons. So I'm due to send out another survey to ask a few questions to make sure that I have sort of got the concept right for what I found out previously. But yeah, it's been a journey.
Sounds interesting. So when you're sewing, because you said sometimes you sew the garments yourself, the clothing yourself, how much time do you have to set aside? I imagine it's time consuming.
It is time consuming, but again, that's a process that I've refined over time. So because I'll be doing certain pieces for certain age groups, I then do bulk cutting. So I'll choose a day. So like next week, we'll have a cutting day where you cut up all the pieces and make them ready for the next day when I'll be stitching. And then the next day will probably be for finishing off and labeling and all that kind of stuff. So that's how. So I allocate my time and I plan ahead as to what I'm going to do. And then I've got my patterns ready. And then I have to prepare the fabric as well, because this is for children and some of the fabrics have been printed. So they have to be washed prior to them being made, because also a lot of the fabric that I use is cotton. Yes, we do use other fabrics which are not 100% cotton, but mainly our core products are 100% cotton, because it's for children to try and keep away from using other sort of fabrics which may not be so friendly for children. So because of that, I try and make sure that we wash them and then they're ready to be, for cutting out, because also they do shrink, some of them, and if you don't wash them prior, then they might shrink when they have been made up without being prepared.
Oh wow! Sounds like
it's a whole process.
It's a whole process. Have you had any? What sort of challenges have you encountered though, whilst running the business?
Challenges that I've encountered, especially in the last 12 months, are with fabric sourcing, because there's not been that much couriering and stuff like that because of bans and stuff. So some of the places where I used to get certain things I no longer can get, or the shops have actually shut down. So I'm actually working on a new suppliers list for various items. I've been fortunate with some places where you get items because the shop is shutting down, but that's not always a positive, because when you're creating something, you want consistency. So as much as you can get that item for less and you can get a lot of it, how sustainable is that? Because next time when you want it, you know that shop is not going to be available. So sometimes it might not be an idea to get those kind of items because you're not going to be able to get them again. So yeah, those are the kind of challenges that I've found. And then also, it's the biggest challenge for me is getting good tradesmen who are very, I'm about finesse, I like things to be done to a certain level. So finding good machinists that will put together the items and also because this is children's clothing, one thing I've found is that not many people are passionate or are interested in stitching children's clothes because of the intricacy that goes with it. So that's one of the challenges that I've found. But yeah, it's there are people out there. I believe there's abundance for everything and anything. So I have been able to get in touch with different people. But I guess we're just waiting for the whole restrictions to be lifted so that things can start moving a lot more smoother again.
How do you increase the awareness of your brand?
At the moment, it's been more about community building through social media and the Internet of Things, really, because our business is it's definitely an online business. It's not a brick and mortar business. So the first place to promote the business would be online. Yes, we get a lot of word of mouth referrals, which is always great, but I would say the bulk of our presence is online. So any online or any collaborations, that's the other thing that we're doing. We have a few influencers that take our items and then they showcase them to their audience, which we like. So those are the few ways that we use.
Have you found?
And, I mean, there's paid advertisements as well.
Okay.
So that's the thing.
And do you pay the individuals that showcase your clothing on their pages?
Yeah, we have a range of influencers. So we've got the micro influencers, which is like the smaller ones, and then we have the bigger ones. So at first instance, we will provide a product for free for them to showcase or post the clothing, so they don't have to give that to us back. And then they exchange that with a post, and it's almost like building a relationship with them, really. So depending on how that goes, then we can consider whether we go into a collaboration with them. So then if their brand or whatever they do aligns with the work that we do, then we can consider them. So at the moment, we've got one influencer that we're collaborating with. We're wanting to bring that up to 3 and see how that goes. So we're looking for a small influencer. The one we have is what we would class as a medium influencer. So now we're scouting for a macro, like those big influencers with large following. So but we've got the VA working on that.
Oh, that's good. Oh, so you have a VA assisting with that. And right. How easy is it to find influencers?
I'll say I used to struggle with it, but I have on board a very good VA who seems to be magic at that. At the moment, I've got a few VAs I need to speak, and thanks to her efforts, but I think she's probably not as time poor as I am, because I think it takes a lot of digging and looking to see and following them for a while to see the kind of things they post, to see whether they align, because there's a lot of influencers out there, and sadly some of them just want to get paid and just put your posts, and they're not really they don't resonate with your brand, and that's what we want. We want someone that resonates with our brand, that will speak for our brand. So I think that's why I'm taking my time to make sure that we get the right people on board, because it's about that relationship, and you won't even need to explain anything to them because they resonate with your brand. So
they align with your brand. So would they have to have a child, because that your clothes are for children? So would they have
not necessarily. Some influencers have got nieces and nephews, so that's still fine. Some of them will go out of their way to pay them a model themselves. So those are the terms that we would discuss with them. So, it depends on how much they want to work with our brand. But so far, the influencer we have on board has their child, and they run their child's Instagram page. So because of that, every now and again, they'll sort of take pictures of them with our clothing, and then they'll do a post, and they'll say that it's a collaborative post, and they'll mention us, and then we tend to get new followers every time they post on there. So that's the idea.
What expenses would you advise people to take into account before investing in a clothing line?
So far, for me, fortunately, because I already had a job, I did have put in a capital injection into the business. A lot of things that I did initially were financed by my job, and people need to be aware of what they want and not try and grow too quickly, because if you want to be everything at once, it doesn't work, because there's a lot of things that are involved in in getting the business going, especially in fashion. For me, I've been very fortunate because when it comes to making samples, I don't have to pay all that money that other people will pay because I can do that myself. But some people who start brands actually are not experienced in sewing or anything like that. So I guess those are the kind of expenses that they would have to incorporate because they can't do those things themselves. Yes, I do bill my time and I, make sure that I put down how much I need to get paid for the work that I do in the business. So you have to factor everything. You're going into the shop, even though you are buying fabric online. How long did it take you? Did it take you 5 minutes, 15 minutes? And how much is that? Because you've already worked out your hourly rate. And I never used to do this from day one. It's something that I learned. And as I said before, my business comes from passion. I've never studied business studies. So that's something that, and I still haven't studied business studies, but I've worked with people who are experienced in manufacturing and I've learned some tricks of the trade, and it's cost me money. So because when you're paying people for their knowledge and if you want real substance, then it's because yes, you can go on Google and work things out, but when it comes to reality, it's a different ball game. So I've had to pay coaches to support me with some areas of the business, and I've also had to come to a place of realization that as much as a believer, the Bible tells me I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength, but that doesn't work in business. You can't be everything. You have to look at your strengths, and then when it comes to weaknesses, make them, strengths by asking somebody else to do what they are best at doing, and then things start moving. And when I did that, I started to see things moving forward rather than me trying to do, the back end of the website. I'm not a web designer, so I just thought, you know what, let me just pay someone who knows and breathes websites, e-commerce, so let them do that bit. But yeah.
I guess there's growth in partnership, isn't it?
Absolutely.
What skills do you think you've been able to leverage from your nursing background to your fashion brand or to you working on your current business?
First one is patience.
Sounds like it.
Patience. And, I suppose it's embodied in empathy and, the whole compassion piece that comes from being a nurse. And I say that because there's been so many things where, like I say, I'm one of those people that if I want to do something, I'll do it. But you realize that you can't do everything. And when you ask somebody else to do something, I'm an extrovert. So, you can't expect them to do them at the speed, that you prefer. Yes. So sometimes you've got to think, what is the reality of this, and work with the time scale. So how I've been able to calm myself, I should say, in that space is if I need someone to work on it, maybe do a tech pack. So a tech pack is where someone will look at my sample and draw and say the pocket is so many centimeters from the side and, all that, all those specifications, so that when I give the pattern to someone to do for me, they know exactly what I want. So when I see it, the placement is where I want it to be. So if I know how to do that, but then, as I said, I sometimes, like this week, I've had 3 days of consulting work, but things still need to move. So if I have to ask someone else to do it, I need to give them the correct instructions, but I also need to realize that they might not be able to do it there and then because they probably have other projects that they're doing. So how I deal with that is I ask them, how long will it take? So when will I get this? So that way I control to a certain level, but I don't have to be anxious, because if they've told me that the work will be due on Friday, I have to wait until Friday comes before I can even start emailing or getting all antsy or anything like that. So
you don't want to micromanage them.
No.
Because then it defeats the purpose of, why you have
Exactly.
contracted them to assist
That's right.
you.
Yeah. But yeah, that has been something, but I had to reflect and see that was required before I was able to actually use that skill, and that, I think it's a big thing that you take from nursing, isn't it? Being patient and so that was something that took me a while to be able to transfer, but no, it has helped me a lot.
I think a lot of health professionals would agree with you that patience is a skill that's relatable with every health professional. Do you think anyone can become creative?
I actually had a very interesting conversation. I went and spoke to young people in a youth group about creativity. Everyone from the studies that is a creative. Mm-hmm. So we are all creatives by nature, but some are more expressive creatives than others. So I express my creativity by actually doing.
Okay.
So you probably would be a creative as well, but you are more of maybe a teacher, So or maybe should I say more of an academic person, where you're using your brain to actually actualize things and analyze things. Whereas for me, it's a bit different, because I think I'm a bit of both. I can do both academia and creativity. But some people are actually just more creative. The creative bit is more dominant in their life than the academic bit. Not to say that they're not academic, but they're more of a creative than they are of an academic person. So when I say expressive, it just means that you are a creative, but you're not going to sit down there and start molding clay or, stitching away or drawing some still life flowers or anything like that.
So how can a person become sort of more creative or more expressive?
They need to practice. You need to practice. So I bet you've sat down and visualized the tree, right? Mm-hmm. And you've seen paintings of trees. So you've seen trees. So like now, if I say to you, start painting a tree, and I gave you a palette of paint and brushes, you could start drawing. It might not look perfect. Mm-hmm. And then I guess the next thing for me would be, did you enjoy painting that tree? And if the answer is no, which, for example, I stitch, and I know I stitch very well. I design clothes, and I know I do that very well. I crochet and I knit. I do it well, but do I enjoy doing it? Which one do I enjoy doing more, knitting, crocheting, or designing and making clothes? Well, I think it's a bit obvious. For me, it's designing and making clothes. That's what I enjoy the most. Mm. So if you want to be creative, I guess the first question, if you want to be more creative, I should say, because if you ask me, we are all creative. If you want to be more creative, how do you do it? You start practicing. So then it's about, what do you fancy doing? Some people don't know. So you can go to an art and crafts place as a starting point, or you can, whatever you feel constitutes creativity, because creativity is not just drawing and doing all these things. For some people, creativity is even just doing copyright and writing poems, and that's how they are visualizing what's happening and then putting it down and writing a poem or writing a book. So that might be what they like to do, but they would need to practice it, not just do it as a one-off, because it is relaxing. It's very therapeutic once you start doing it. I mean, taking it and making it a business is another level altogether. It's not a must, but, some people may decide, oh, well, I love doing this. I could actually do it and, make people feel good with what I do, but also get paid for it. It's an extra. So, to answer what you said, practice.
Makes sense.
The way that will bring it out.
How do you find your speaking engagements?
To be honest, so far the ones that I've had have been by invitation, by people that know what I do. I haven't done loads of them, but the ones that I've done, I've done a few on networking events, and then I've done a few more because of my experience as a child and the journey that I've traveled. My aim is to make sure that we encourage young people to do exactly what we've just talked about, which is exercise their creativity. Because being somebody that was born in Zimbabwe, I know that creativity is something that was not cultivated or encouraged enough when we were growing up. So I feel that it's something that needs to be encouraged. So because of that, I do offer the creative workshops or, talks where I'm encouraging either parents or where there's children, encouraging them to just play around with creativity and just challenge themselves to, even if it's just for relaxation or just to take them away from screen work or explore a talent that they have, which, who knows, may end up being something that can give them an income or just end up being an art in a museum for art's sake, So, yeah.
Okay, I like that. So how do you stay, or how are you staying organized? Because you have multiple engagements. So with your speaking, with the business, the consultancy work, how do you manage to stay organized?
Planning. And it's not something that I woke up knowing. It's something that I've embraced and made a part of my life as I've, grown. And as I spoke earlier, I now have a VA, PA, who helps keep me organized. So that has been a tremendous help. I would do it all over again. I feel that it's money well spent, because now, I know what I'm doing when I'm doing it. And if I've got things that I don't necessarily need to do, but they still need to be done, I can ask her to do them. And I couldn't speak highly of that more than I can, because honestly, it's a godsend. I used to wonder what, when people say, I've got a PA, I've got a VA, and I was think,
it seemed glamorous, doesn't it?
Exactly. But now I tell you, it's a need.
I'll get me one of those.
I will, honestly. It also is it was a bit tricky to make a part of my life, because you can have a VA or PA, but they need to know what they're going to do, or you need to tell them what they're going to do. Otherwise, you're just going to pay them. So again, that's something that has matured over time for me, because I need to actually know what they're going to do for them to do something. So, but to answer your question again, planning is become a big part of my life. I have planners on my phone. I have a diary. I hold a paper diary that take with me everywhere. So that helps me a lot.
How about staying motivated? What has helped you stay motivated throughout the whole journey?
My why, I guess. My why. I have a dream. I have a very big dream for life, and it means impacting a good amount, not the masses, obviously. I don't think my calling is that way, but I have a dream to impact creatives, and let them know that we don't all have to be academic. If we are, then that's a bonus. And guess what? You can be so happy and enjoy your life doing what you love and are good at doing. So that's what keeps me going every day. But I used to be on the go all the time. But now I make sure that I give myself me time, because when I've done that, I get back and I'm at a good place to actually carry on, so that I can be able to achieve what I ultimately want to achieve as Bonani.
Interesting. Lovely to hear all of that. Lastly, do you have a book that you can recommend for someone wanting to be more creative? Either a book, or is there a YouTube video you could recommend someone watch, or a resource?
To be honest, I think that's more like, I don't have a specific one, but
Okay.
I would say one needs to read or explore mindfulness, because I feel like once you sort out your mindset, you clear your headspace, that will enable you to be creative. Because when your mind is thinking about the next bill to pay and the next this and that to do, you can't get your creative juices flowing, is all I'm going to say. You really need to clear yourself out. So if you're a reader, read up on mindfulness. If you are a listener, listen up on mindfulness and creativity. So no, I failed to find, I would say at this moment in time, I don't have a specific or one book, because I've read so many books that, I would say help me to stay attuned with my creativity.
No, I like the concept of mindfulness, and there's plenty of resources anyway out there to do with mindfulness. Bonani, thank you so much for sharing the information, sharing your journey so far with us. Where can people connect with you or link up with you if they wanted to ask you a few more questions or get to know what you're doing?
They can link up with me through my website, which is bonanimapundu.com, or they can also do the same through yanafella.com. I don't know if we can write it somewhere, but
so I can include those details at the end of the show notes.
And then the best also portals in terms of social media would be Instagram. Okay. And I go by I am Bonani on Instagram. That's my personal page. And then there's Yanafella, the business page. So any of those portals, you would be able to reach out to me.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. And I wish you all the best with your business.
Thank you so much for having me, Fee. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Now let's go get creating.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you like the podcast, please subscribe, rate it, and review it on iTunes, as this can help others find it. If you'd like updates on the podcast, you can follow the pages on Instagram or Facebook by searching for Well Restorer. If you have any questions or would like to give some feedback, you can send an email to info@wellrestorer.co.uk. Thanks once again. Take care.